Thank you.
A longtime senator from the East Coast. Now he is the Secretary of State. His first mission in his office brought him to Europe. He was stopping over in Great Britain. Now he is in Berlin, his most important stop ever. And he's here to meet real Germans, real young Germans. He wants to learn, he wants to know what's going on. He has something. So please, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a seat. And on this occasion, I would like to thank Facebook. I would like to thank Mark Zuckerberg. I would like to thank Gunnar Bender for making this possible here at Basecamp Berlin. And I would like to thank the E-Plus Gruppe to sponsor that. So we are here about to start our first town hall meeting. So, Mr. Secretary, how do you feel?
Sehr gut, danke. Alles gut. Ja, deine Schuhe sind fantastisch, ja?
You speak very good German.
Nein, ich kann nur ein bisschen Deutsch sprechen. Ja. Aber ich würde sagen, es ist wunderbar, wieder hier in Berlin zu sein. Danke. Ja, Mann. Und jetzt würde ich in Englisch sprechen, weil es ist hier. Anyway, could you hear any of that introduction? I couldn't hear a thing. He was talking away.
You want me to do it again?
No. Anyway, I was here. Can I say something?
Yeah. Well, let me think about it. Yeah, you know, it's Facebook. You know, we are more casual. It's family style. So please have your time.
All right. Let me just say to everybody, it's really wonderful to be here. I was. Here as a young man, very young, I was 12 years old, and I used to ride my bicycle all up and down the Kurfürstendamm and around the Grunewald, and I used to sail on the Wannsee. So I got to know this city quite a bit. I lived in Dahlem. You live in Dahlem? Ah, fantastic. All right. Well, that was when I was here. It was still not long after World War II, and it was changing. And boy, what an amazing city you have built now. It's an extraordinary city. Unglaubliche. Unglaubliche. It's really amazing. And the transition, I was walking last night. I had a moment to go out for a walk. And walked through the Brandenburg Gate, and then I went out along the trail, and I saw the bricks in the road of the old separation. And I walked through the Holocaust Memorial, and I've seen it before. I've been here before, and I've seen it. But I'd never had the experience of walking in it and going up and down and feeling the sense of disorientation. And it was really remarkable. But I must say to you, I credit your leaders, I credit your country with having had the vision and the courage to put that there to sort of remind people about a past that is the past and about the possibilities of the future. And when I think of President Reagan out here talking about the wall, and President Kennedy, who famously said, from my state, ich bin ein Berliner, I think of the history, and you all are changing that now. That's why I came here today to talk to you. Because my job is not just to talk to leaders of the world, but it's to talk to you who are the future. And to talk to you about this journey we are all on together. And what you're doing now in Germany is so remarkable in terms of leading Europe and expressing a vision about where we can go together. Europe is strong and stronger together, and when you put Europe together, you're the largest economy in the world. And when you put Europe and the United States together, we have huge opportunity to create jobs, to build a stronger economy, and to build a future for each other. And in this day and age, every single problem is interconnected. You know, there's no over there and everything. We're all connected. and witness, the computers that are here and Facebook, and, you can tweet and you can do any kind of communication. There's, young people across the world today, I think of themselves not just as citizens of the country they belong to, so you're not just German, but you think of yourselves as global citizens. And we need to think about how we're going to pull each other together to solve really big, serious challenges. Global climate change. I've been working on global climate change every year that I've been in the United States Senate, and I was there almost 30 years. I was in Rio 20 years ago when we created a framework convention, and we thought things would move forward. And I went to almost every meeting in between. Buenos Aires and Copenhagen and Kyoto, and you list them. And we're still struggling. We haven't got it right yet. Now, this is a challenge of the planet, because we need to reduce the levels of emissions. If you believe in science, and I believe in science, and I believe in the facts, and the facts tell us we need to be moving and responding. And you know that in Germany, because you've been on the cutting edge of that. We also need to admit across the globe that the opportunities that people in other parts of the world want to touch as much as we do are not going to be decided by military. They're going to be decided by creating new opportunities for people everywhere. And so we're all connected to this. And we have to be patient, we have to be strong, we have to recognize how we can find sort of common sense, unifying approaches to solve these kinds of problems. The economies of Europe obviously are challenged right now. We understand that. And your challenge is our challenge too, because if you don't do well, our economy feels it. You're our biggest trading partner. And there are lots of investments from Europe in the United States and vice versa. And we buy from you and vice versa. So the bottom line is, folks, we're in this together. And I learned that a long time ago when I was here. I saw the divisions. When I was in Berlin, there was an American sector, a British sector, a French sector, and a Russian sector. And one day, I was very adventuresome because I had a diplomatic passport. So I rode my bike through the checkpoint and I went into the East Sector. And I rode around. How old were you? And I was 12 years old. and I really did see this. I remember it. As a 12-year-old, I saw the difference between the East and the West. I saw people wearing darker clothing, and there were fewer people in the street. There were fewer cars. There was a sense of, I didn't feel the movement and the energy that existed elsewhere. And when I came home, I told my dad, and he got very upset with me and said, "You could have been an international incident. I could have lost my job." Blah, blah, blah. So I lost my passport, and I was grounded, and I never made another trip like that. But I've never forgotten it. And now it's vanished. Vanished. Now, so many other countries have followed with this spirit of giving life to people's individual hopes and aspirations. And you look at, I think about Lech Walesa climbing over a fence and jumping into a demonstration. And from that, one individual act becoming the leader of the liberation of a country and the president of his country. And Václav Havel going to prison and putting his life on the line. Aung San Suu Kyi. I visited Aung San Suu Kyi in her house in Myanmar, Burma, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And she stayed at it and stayed at it and stayed at it. And finally emerged to the respect and acclaim of people all around the world. Nelson Mandela. I stood in the cell on Robben Island where Nelson Mandela spent 27 years. 27 years. And when he came out, he didn't hate. Didn't hate. He turned that energy into changing his country and standing up for freedom and for the future. So today, let's talk about that. I want to hear from you. I don't want to just speak at you. And I hope we didn't pick a coffee house today, because it means that's the only way you guys can stay awake. I want to have a good conversation with you. I love that. The best thing we can do is talk with each other, share with me what you're thinking. I'll answer your questions. And let's have a conversation about how Europe, the United States, together can continue to work. And I just say one thing. The partnership that we have with Germany is extraordinary. And we're very, very grateful for the leadership and the cooperation on very tough issues that don't sit easily with everybody, like Afghanistan and other challenges that we face. But we're working together. That's the best way to get things done. And I look forward this morning to having a conversation with you about all those things. So let's go. Let's go. Who's first? Anyway.
Secretary of State John Kerry, thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we would like to have your questions. We have 3 microphone runners here. So anybody who wants to ask a question, please just give us a sign. Tell us briefly who you are, how old you are, where you're from, and your question, please. Gentlemen, you're the first.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you, first of all, to come here and give us the chance to answer questions. And second of all, I like your tie.
You can get it on the internet.
Great, cool.
So it's a place. It's inspired by my state, Massachusetts.
Okay. Cool.
But the company is actually in Connecticut, next door to me.
Okay.
And I'll tell everybody it's called vineyardvines.com.
All right. Thank
Okay,
you.
you got your commercial break.
Commercial break. And I don't have any stock in the company, so you know, whatever.
Well,
Good question.
Well, my name is Linus. I'm 19 years old, and I'm going to a Catholic school here in Berlin. And I spent a year in America, in New York, Buffalo.
Great.
And my question is, what are your policies toward the conflict in the Middle East, like Israel and Palestine, since Palestine is now a observer state in the in the UN? Are you, like, what are you going to do about this? Are you, like, acting with
our
them?
policy,
Or?
yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
It's our policy is very, very clear. President Obama is committed to 2 states. A state for the Palestinians, a homeland for the Palestinian people, a homeland for the Jewish people. That's our policy. And I am already having meetings and beginning to talk to people. President Obama is going to Israel somewhere in the next month and or so. And, you know, we're not going to go to sort of plunk a plan down and tell everybody what they have to do. I want to consult, and the president wants to listen. But we are deeply committed to trying to achieve peace in the Middle East, and they have to be as committed. All the parties need to be committed to that process. But I can promise you that the president is very much on his mind. He hopes to have really good consultations when he goes over there. It's his first trip as president. And I look forward to going with him and having those meetings, and then we'll sort of see how we can proceed. But rest assured, we do understand how critical it is. And I might just say about what's happening there now, we really hope everybody will step back a little and try to find a way to proceed very calmly and very thoughtfully in these next days. Leave the opportunities for peaceful resolution open, and that's important.
Okay, nehmen wir den nächsten nach vorne. Gentlemen over there, please introduce yourself briefly, this gentleman. Yep.
Hi, my name is Zakaria. I'm a medical student from Berlin. I'm 27 years old. And my question is, in America you have this feeling that you are an American. Everybody, whether he's from outside or he's born in America, feels like an American. In Germany we're still not there. So my question is, how can we Germans learn from you, from the American, to establish this feeling that we are Germans, a new we?
Well,
Thank you very much.
I'm surprised to hear you say that, to be honest with you, because you have so much to be proud of and so much to unite around. Germany's accomplishments and contributions to the global community in the last years really are extraordinary. I mean, if you think of a country that has overcome difficulties in the last 60 years, that's brought itself together, unified East and West, that was not easy. That was tough. And you did it. It was the right thing to do, and you made it happen. Moved your capital. Used to be in Bonn, now here. Moved people, brought people together, and have become a powerhouse economically. Germany is extraordinary in that capacity. You think of the engineering skills of Germany. It's one of the reasons why I want to partner, and I think the President wants to partner with respect to global climate change, because your technical engineering, innovative skills, which we see in so many different ways, can help us to design some of the alternative and renewable energy production capacity that we need in order to quickly, more rapidly transition from a fossil fuel based to a alternative energy based world. We all have to do this. Now, in other ways, I know sometimes the heart and the gut need to have that feeling too, not just the head because of the statistics. But my sense is you're on the road. It's happening. I think that as the Europe issue resolves itself, you'll probably feel more of that, perhaps, sense of unity, because that's been a project that people have been working on for 60 years now or more. And as that comes together, I hope it would help. I honestly don't want to claim, and I'm not an expert, I can't tell you, you have a federal system like we have, and you have all your states. I mean, look at the United States. We do feel uniquely American, but I can tell you, you can go to Texas, and then you can go to California, and you can go to Massachusetts or anywhere. You feel very distinct differences between the states. I'm sure you felt those. But the one unifying factor does become sort of American. I think as time goes by, as events unfold, you will find yourself much more identifying yourself in that way. That's just my feeling. But in the end, it's going to come from you guys, not from us. You're going to define it. And if you keep going down the road you're going now, I think you're on your way to doing it. Thank you.
Next question, please. Yeah, the girl in the front. Yep.
Okay, thank you for coming here and answering our questions. Well, when you came in, you talked about the trade partnership between Europe and the United States. However, as the economies in other continents are rising, like Asia, how is the direction of the United States? Because Asia started as a, different culture and now grew up to a really strong economical power during the recent decades. And how do you see the relation to Africa, for example? Because right now, the African continent is kind of exploited through mining, and they're trying to establish things, but like the Gate as the Middle East, it's kind of very conflictual. And how do you see the perspective of the partnership between the United States towards Asia, and where do you see Africa, for example, in 50 years?
Okay, great questions. Those are really good, and they're all kind of related. But let me begin with the question of Asia and Europe, because I want to make this very clear to everybody. Last year and the year before, there were sort of questions in the minds of some people in Europe. Is the United States turning away from Europe? Are we facing, more involved with Asia, et cetera? It used to, people called it the pivot, right? What I want to make clear to you is this. We are paying attention to Asia, and so are you, and so should you. But we're not doing it at the expense of Europe. Not at all. And in fact, President Obama's announcement about the US-EU trade agreement is evidence of the fact that we think Europe is critical to creating the kind of leverage, if you will, that comes from a larger market and from our working out the rules of behavior between us. Now, one of the difficulties with the Asian marketplace has been that, yeah, they're engaged in capitalism and they're pursuing, pretty intensive market opportunities, but they're not always playing by the same rules. So we find, there are certain problems that we've had in market access, or certain problems that we've had in companies being able to buy in and get equal opportunity to be able to have contracts within their country, or there are other kinds of problems. Cyberspace, we see certain things happening in cyberspace now that are worrying to some people. There are tariffs sometimes that prevent goods from moving, etc. So what we need to do is keep working at getting a more level playing field where we are playing by the same rules. And that's a challenge with respect to some of the things that are happening with some countries in other parts of the world. One of the reasons that the EU Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, TTIP as people call it, is so important is that it will help us raise the standards of behavior of every other country, because we will be a stronger economic marketplace, stronger marketplace, and that will have an impact on other people wanting to be able to access that marketplace, deal with those countries and those companies, and they're going to have to raise their rules and raise their standards. Now, for us, that means working out tough issues like regulations. There are differences of regulations on certain kinds of things. There are differences on agriculture policies, etc. We have to work through those. I'm confident we can. We have before. We work through them. We work together. But the reason this is important is that we want more of a relationship with countries than just the economics. And in China and in Africa, what you do see, and in some other parts of the world, is a purely economic, no concern about the social fabric, no concern about the health system, no concern about the environment, no concern about some of the things that we all share concerns about. And we want to raise the awareness and the appropriate application of standards to those kinds of things. Now, in Africa today, I think you have 9 or 10 of the fastest growing economies in the world, fastest growing countries. A lot of people don't know that. Africa is starting to boom. It's starting to happen. And what we want to make sure of is that it's not exploitative, but it's a mutually beneficial and quality of life raising process. And I think if we work together on our piece of our economic relationship, that will flow over into the opportunities within Africa and other countries in the world. That's why it's so important for our relationship to continue to grow and to work very, very closely together. But it's a good question, because Africa is it's a place of amazing opportunity, but it's also a place with very, very real challenges of governance right now, and we need to work at those. So thank you very, very much.
We are here at Base Camp in Berlin. We have the Secretary of State, John Kerry, here. We're live on Facebook TV. So who wants the next question? You? Okay.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi. Good. Thanks.
Everything good?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Okay, so my name is Louise, and I just spent 1 year in Lexington, Virginia.
Cool.
And I have a friend who's now at the VMI, Virginia Military Institute.
Right.
And he just wrote me that he might go to Mali, and if they don't settle down, and I'm a little bit concerned about that. And I don't know, like, what is going on there, and what are your plans? And
In Mali?
yeah.
Well, that's a very good question. Mali, as you know, recently had a attempted coup. The younger military officers revolted against the current government. And then that spun off. They went up into the northern area because they got driven out. and joined up with some very tough people, terrorist groups that are up in that part of the country. It's very, very large, very, very spread out, very desolate. Mountains and other things up there where they've been hiding out and plotting, frankly. And they are involved in trying to undo the government. And so eventually they started to move south again in order to try to take over the capital. And the French intervened because it was so risky in terms of security concerns for the region and security concerns for France and Europe. One of the lessons we learned in Afghanistan is you cannot leave jihadist group to just make its plots and then go attack people as they did us, totally out of the blue, destroying the World Trade Center and killing over 3,000 people, the most significant loss of life that we've had since Pearl Harbor, 1941. And these threats are real, and they're happening every day, unfortunately, in parts of the world. You saw what Hezbollah did in Bulgaria and the Burgas attack against a bus, killing 5 people. We see what's happened in train stations and in airports and in various places in the world. Now, I wish it was otherwise. I know you do. We all do. We want a world that's different. Unfortunately, in this modern age, terrorism has been chosen as the preferred tool by some people who have no other offerings politically to anybody. They have no plan. They don't have an economic plan. They don't have a governing plan. They just have a plan to destroy what they see and take over and kill people. Now, if you leave that unattended to, that threat grows. We've learned that. We've seen that. And what we're fighting for here is rule of law, respect for diversity, pluralism, tolerance, the ability of different people to live together. We see that in a lot of countries. And some people don't like that. There's a clash of modernity with fixed ways of doing things. And some people want those fixed ways, unfortunately, to be superimposed on other people against their will, without their choice, no matter what. This is the way you do it. So we have differing beliefs about how we want to live our lives. And you have to fight for those. You have to stand up and have your values. Now, our preference in Mali or anywhere else is to peacefully, calmly, by rule of law, have the ability to be able to give people the choice of what they want with respect for rights, for women's rights, for human rights, for religious rights, for all these opportunities to be able to come together. The world works better. Democracies don't attack each other. And so what we need to do is try to continue to recognize that Mali represents a threat. Now, the French have decided it's enough of a threat to them that they're taking the lead and they're engaged in trying to work to strengthen the government. They don't want to be there, I assure you, for the long term. They don't want to be. They understand the price. Go back and read history of the Algerian War and the French. They understand the price. But they also understand that if you don't pay attention to those things up front and early, you pay a bigger price down the road. And that's what we all need to understand in what we're trying to do. In Syria, we want a peaceful resolution. That's our first choice. But if the president of the country decides he isn't going to come and negotiate, and he's willing to just kill his people, then you need to at least provide some kind of support for those people who are fighting for their rights and for freedom and for some independence. So these are struggles, and they're not easy. And your generation is really going to have to think hard about this. I'll tell you why. Because in parts of the world, you have 60% of the population under the age of 30. 50% of the population under the age of 21, and 40% of the population under the age of 18, and they don't have jobs, and they don't get an education like you are, and they don't see opportunities. They live in a government that brings the fist down on them, and they want opportunity. That fruit vendor in Tunisia didn't burn himself because he was a follower of a religion or had a particular ideological point of view. He wanted to sell his fruit without corrupt policemen banging on him and telling him he couldn't do it and so forth. In Tahrir Square, it wasn't a religion that brought you that revolution. There's a lot of young people like you with their, texting and their cell phones and their, internet communications who said, we want jobs. It was a generational revolution. And I think leaders all over the world need to be listening to this very, very carefully. So you ask a good question, why Mali? Because Mali is part of that whole connection of possibilities for the future versus people who have one point of view and they're willing to impose it on people violently. And that's something we all need to think about hard.
Thank you very much. There's a young girl in the front.
Well,
How are you?
I appreciate your visit today. Thank you very much. And well, I'm part of Juma, young Muslim and adolescent or Muslim teenagers at least, who stand up for righteousness, equality, and tolerance. And I want to know what comes into your mind when you hear and see people like me, young Muslim adolescents in Germany. What comes into your mind? And do you see a difference about Muslim teenagers in Germany and Muslim teenagers in America?
No, thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for asking that question. I'm really happy that you have. And the true answer is I don't know enough about Muslim teenagers in Germany to tell you. I mean, I just don't know enough about that. But if they're like you, here, asking a question, standing up in public, and inquiring about, the possibilities and working as a member of Juma and being part of this effort to try to reach out and, talk about a different kind of future. If they're like that, and I think they are, then you have a lot in common. Because in America, we have total, occasionally you have, I can't tell you that 100%. Sometimes you have somebody who's a little, not as tolerant as somebody else, and that happens anywhere. But as a country, as a society, we live and breathe the idea of religious freedom and religious tolerance, whatever the religion, and political freedom and political tolerance, whatever the point of view. I mean, some people have sometimes wondered about why our Supreme Court allows one group or another to march in a parade, even though it's the most provocative thing in the world, and they carry signs that are an insult to one group or another. And the reason is that's freedom, freedom of speech. In America, you have a right to be stupid, if you want to be. And you have a right to be disconnected to somebody else, if you want to be. And we tolerate it. We somehow make it through that. Now, I think that's a virtue. I think that's something worth fighting for. And unfortunately, in too many parts of the world, some religions, and I'm not just speaking of one religion or another, you have intolerance in a number of different kinds of religions or points of view and different things. I know that Islam is not represented by a lot of jihadists and others. I know it's a beautiful religion. I've read more and more about it. I've been reading a book recently called No God But God, which is the history of the Prophet and where he came from and how it developed as a religion. It's fascinating. If I went back to college today, I'd probably go back and be a comparative religion major and a comparative literature major. Because those are the things that help you understand what makes people tick and how they're working and how they think. But the important thing is to have the tolerance to say, you know, you can have a different point of view. I'll give you an example. In my state of Massachusetts, I have a grandfather, goes way back, about 10 grandfathers back. And he is a guy who came over on a boat to America to find freedom, religion. And he gave a famous sermon on that boat, which presidents have quoted. President Kennedy quoted it, President Reagan quoted it, saying, "We shall be as if a city upon a hill, and the eyes of the world will be upon us. Everybody will be looking at us." And so I've always thought about that, as do a lot of Americans. Well, it turned out that in Massachusetts, they weren't as tolerant as they thought they were going to be in the beginning. And they had witch hunts in Salem, Massachusetts, and they burned people at the stake. And then people ran away from there, and they went down. One guy spent the entire winter going through the forests, and he found Rhode Island and named the city Providence. And today you have Providence, Rhode Island, founded by somebody who ran away from religious persecution in the next state, my state. And another group went down to Connecticut, Yale University, and Connecticut are all, you know, were founded by people running away from religious, you know, intolerance. Finally, after years of working at it, we kind of worked at the balance. And we got it right so that now I can say to you that our country is incredibly tolerant of people of all walks of life and different philosophies and religions. And I would hope that here in Germany, you all are working at exactly that same kind of thing across the board. And I think probably we have a lot of Muslim, a lot of you know, practitioners of that faith in the United States. And I think that you're probably very, very similar in your hopes that you want to be able to practice your faith, but you don't try to push it on somebody else. You want respect for you, respect for your rights, your opportunities. They should come without prejudice to whatever your faith is, and I'm confident that in that respect, you're very, very similar, as you probably are with the hopes of people all over the world.
We are here live on Facebook TV. The gentleman in the squared shirt, yeah. Please introduce yourself and your questions. The Secretary of State wants to learn, wants to know what young people think in Berlin. Live on Facebook TV. Your question, and who are you?
Hello, sir. My name is Sammy. I'm 22 years old, and I want to go back to the first question. Your answer was the two-state solution of the Middle East, but it could be that both sides don't want to have this compromise. No. Now, my question is, what is the solution of that problem?
Well, thank you, Sammy. Sammy, let me just ask you, what do you do? Sammy, what do you do? You're a student now?
Yeah, I'm a student.
What's your subject? Was studierst du?
Business informatics.
Hast du alles vergessen? Was ist hier? So what are you studying?
Business
Business. Okay, business. Okay. Can I ask you what you're studying here?
I'm still not studying, but hopefully I'm studying pharmacy in April.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, you're right. There are divisions within Palestinians and divisions in Israel. But the majority, I've seen polling data recently which says the majority of the people in Israel, the majority of the Palestinians, believe in a two-state solution. And the leadership of both have stated that they are committed to the two-state solution. We are committed to it. Europe is committed to the two-state solution, and that's what we need to work at. Okay? Thank you.
Hello. I'm Ramona. I'm 21 years old, and I'm studying at Free University, Film Studies and Comparative Literature. And I was an exchange
Did
student.
you watch the
as
Academy
well.
Awards?
Yes, I did. But not all of it. 'Cause,
And did the right movie win?
I was for Les Miserables, but...
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm not going there. Anyway.
Well, anyways, I was an exchange student as well. I went with a Congress Youth Bundestag program and went to Rhode Island, and I stayed with a family. And my question would be, why do you think less Americans come to Europe to make the exchange experience than Europeans do when they go to America? Yeah.
You know, that's a really good question. I'm not sure that I have the answer to that. I need to find out. Honestly, I need to find out. I learned that yesterday. I was talking to our ambassador, and we were talking about exchange students and the numbers who come from one direction or another. I understand that more European students, however, are now choosing to go to other places in Europe and not necessarily come to the United States either. So I think we both need to think about this a little bit, because I think it's vital. I believe in our need in America to have every student learn language. We need to do better at that. We need to travel more. We need to be reaching out more. And I hope we can encourage that. But I don't know. Honestly, I don't know the answer to that. I've got to find out. I've got to think about it. I'm sorry I just don't have. Do you have an answer? Do you know why do you think? Why do you think? You were there.
Assumption. No, I thought because they have to save so much money for college education that perhaps it's just not doable.
You know, you may have really hit the nail on the head. It's
because that's what they tell me. Like,
expensive.
oh, I would love to go, but I can't afford it.
I can't afford it because they have to think about paying off a college loan. You know, that's why we have a very significant, President Obama has committed even more to exchange programs. And he has a very significant initiative with Latin America now. We're trying to bring more students both directions. We have the Fulbright program, as you know. We have a certain number of scholarships. It's my hope we can create some more scholarships in the next days, and we're working at some ideas about how to do that. But that's a very, very good point. And the State Department is responsible for our exchange programs. We have a whole division that work on it. And I'm going to go back, and you've now given me yet another thing to work on. Thanks.
The gentleman in the back, please introduce yourself. You're live on Facebook TV now. Come on.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Kerry. My name is Tim. I'm 25 years old. I'm a business college graduate and Fulbright alumni. So I would like to ask you, Mr. Kerry, what do you consider your toughest upcoming political challenge here in Europe and in Germany in particular?
Well, in Europe, I think the challenge, obviously, is working with you together for both of us to get our economies moving. And I think it comes down to the possibilities of the European-U.S. trade agreement. I think that's really important for us both. We need to work on that and make that happen. We both need to create jobs. We both need to open up more economic opportunity. We have to deal. You've been dealing with your deficit and your budget issues, and your chancellor has have to make some very hard decisions, and she has, and she's been a good partner with us in this effort. But we in the United States need to get our budget resolved. We're having a big fight, as you know, right now about that. I think we'll get there. I think you can count on the fact that we will get our budget straightened out over the next period of time. Can't tell you exactly how, but we're going to do it. And the result will be helping both of our relationships as we do that. But that's the biggest challenge that we face between Germany and the other things are cooperating, continuing to cooperate on external issues. And there we thank Germany. We thank you for your help and support with respect to Afghanistan. We thank you for your help and support with respect to Iran. We have other initiatives with counterterrorism and other things that we work on, and we need to continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. The next, huh?
You in the back. I want to make sure we get some of the folks in the back where they hide back here.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Hey, my name is Oleg. I'm 22 years old, and I spent a year in St. Louis, Missouri. And today I'm studying...
Can I stop you for a minute? How many of you have spent time in the United States studying? Wow. That's incredible. How many want to? Still, the same ones. Go back. That's pretty good. That's impressive. Sorry, Gert.
Fine. Today I'm studying disaster management here in Berlin. And,
disaster management?
Yeah, disaster management. So managing natural catastrophes and disasters like Hurricane Sandy or Haiti or floods in Pakistan or wherever. And since you've served the army, what exactly made you an opponent of the Vietnam War and maybe of war in general? That would interest me.
Well, that's an interesting question. First of all, I was in the Navy. But I love the Army. We worked with the Army very, very closely, and with the Marines. We worked very, very closely. I went to Vietnam because I thought I should serve my country, and because initially I sensed that it had strategic implications for our country. And that's what our leaders were telling us. What I learned when I got there was very different from what we had been told and what we thought. I found the war was a civil war, that we were in the middle of this civil war, that for various reasons the strategies that we were pursuing were not working and weren't going to. And it was in many ways a surrogate war for the Cold War itself, for the relationship with the Soviet Union then, and China, and other perceptions, the so-called domino theory that people talked about back then. I learned really that I thought it was a mistake. And so when I came back to America as a young veteran, I led veterans against the war. Now, anybody who has been in war should hate war. Occasionally there are a few people who may not, but most people who've been to war will come out and tell you they hate war. And yet, I've learned, because of the way the world works, that sometimes you have to stand up to fight for and defend something where there's no other alternative. Now, that's why I believe war ought to be a last resort. War ought to be after you have exhausted the remedies of diplomacy. And that's one of the reasons why I am so powerfully committed to diplomacy and to trying to make peace and prevent a war. But I don't accept the notion that there isn't some time where you may not have to defend your interests and fight for them. Afghanistan is an example. I voted to go into Afghanistan because we were attacked by people from Afghanistan. And the only way to defend ourselves against the next attack was to go after them and end that threat. Now, sometimes that happens in life. I am not for wars of choice, but I am supportive of self-defense and of the notion that sometimes you have interests you have to protect. I supported President Clinton when he decided to go and send troops into the Balkans because of what was happening there, the killing that was taking place there. And I thought it was important to prevent disaster in Benghazi. So I think there are times where you need to put your values and your interests together and defend them. And that's why we have NATO. That's why we work together on cooperative defense efforts. But it's not because, anybody who has been in war knows war is the failure of diplomacy. War is the failure of other solutions to be able to avoid that possibility. And those are the circumstances under which any nation has to safeguard its rights to defend itself.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have time for 2 more questions. The Secretary of State has a tight schedule. I would like to give a chance to the gentleman in the back here. What's your question? Who are you?
Yes, sir.
Is it on? Yeah, it is.
Who are you? Where do you come from? What are you doing here? Why'd you come? What's going on?
I'm supposed to ask you the question, I think. No,
I want to have more fun and ask more questions. I want to find out what you guys do. Everybody's just asking. I want to tell me a little bit about something. What do I need to know about Germany?
What do you know about Germany?
What do I need to know? What would you want me to know about Germany coming here today? What would you want me to leave here thinking about Germany?
Damn, and I prepared such a good question.
I'll let you get it. I'll let you get your question. Anybody who wants to tell me, what do I need to know about Germany?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say I'm an American living in Germany, so no worries that I actually participated in the same program, the Congress Bundestag program.
Okay.
So my name is Allison. I'm 26 years old. I'm an engineer here, and I'm doing research. And I've been in Berlin for 4 years now. So I can say, and I can thank the state government and the state basically for what they've been doing. So no worries.
So what is it that you think as an American? Now, it's not fair that an American is telling me what I already know about Germany. But
I at least wanted to reassure you as well that no worries that the exchange is going both ways.
Okay,
that there
good.
is exchange.
Thank you. That's important. All right. Who wants to tell me something I should know? Seriously, tell me something that I need to know. Yeah, sir.
Well, maybe if you have the chance to walk around Berlin a little bit, you might see some so-called tripping stones in the ground, which are gold stones with the name of people who were killed by the Nazis, and that's a way for us to remind ourselves of that just by walking around the city. And I think that's just a very good way of remembering and not forgetting, and I think maybe you will have the chance to see that.
Wow.
Some more ideas the Secretary of State should know about Germany.
No, I didn't know that, and that's very powerful. Very, very powerful. Thank you for telling me that. Yes.
So I'm half Russian, so I know both nationalities, German and Russian. And about Germany, I can say that all the stereotypes that they're precise and punctuality and very responsible is true, mostly. So that's a good thing. And also about Germany in general, about the country, Germans always look up to Americans because Americans are very, always proud of their country. And because of our history, we kind of fear to show our proudness of Germany, but recently, especially during football and soccer in America, wow,
yeah.
that changes slowly. So, yeah.
You mean about football? Everybody gets excited.
Yes, and their first, in 2006 when the World Championships took part in Germany, it was the first time that Germans showed their flag and were proud.
I love it.
Of their
That's
Germany.
great.
So they're going. So they see America as a big brother, not big brother in a good way.
But a good friend, a friend you look up to.
Yeah,
I understand.
Definitely.
Well, that's important to know. Thank you. And I'm a big World Cup fan. I'm a soccer fan. Germany is a powerhouse. Be careful.
Yes, we are.
All right. Who else? Something I really should know. Yes, way back here. I'm sorry, Jojo.
So, my name is Fabian. I'm 20 years old and studying political science here in Berlin. I've been to ES too, and one thing, what I noticed about Germany, comparing, people I met during the exchange and people I'm meeting now, and in the political science field, is that yes, there's a growing admiration too of the United States here from Germany, but there's also growing critical sense, and I don't envy you in your position at all. It's very tough to have to handle with all these countries, especially, having to hear all the critique that you hear. Mostly from foreign countries, that we're missing a lot of cooperation. I was very glad when I heard that you're emphasizing on the state of right, on working more towards human rights. But a lot of time we are, a lot of people my age are noticing or judging American statements that direction that they seem to us hypocritical. And when we see results of United Nations negotiations, for example, for the Arms Trade Treaty that have been, slowed down by countries like the United States. And yet there are statements, and yet you are very committed to human rights. But we always see that when we try to push something forward, there are not only countries in the East, but also countries in the West, like the United States, that push it backward again. Well, so that's very, very sad for us.
Let me take that under advisement. I didn't want to deprive this guy of his question, too. I said I'd come back to him, so he worked hard on it, and I want to make sure he gets it. Yeah.
So kind of you, thank you. I was just wondering, so after your inauguration, you tried to call the Russian ambassador, the Russian foreign minister, and you're going to have a meeting with him later. And there's been much tension going on with all the legislation, the Magnitsky Act, the Dima Yaroslav Act, as well as the anti-homosexuality legislation in Russia, which clearly violates human rights. I was just wondering, what are you going to tell him on that, or are you going to do something about it? Since the German government is kind of, well, not very intrigued with critique.
Let me just say this to you. It would be a horrible diplomatic faux pas by me if I told you what I'm going to tell Lavrov before I see him. So I'm
tease a bit.
I know him. I have a good relationship with him. Russia is very important to dealing with many of the problems that we face. I am confident we can find common ground, even as we disagree on certain points, and I look forward to having a good conversation with him. Thank you. Thank you very much. Over here. Do I have I'm told, how much time do we have?
We are, you're scheduled.
I have to stop.
Angela Merkel is waiting, Guido Westerwelle is waiting, Lavrov is waiting. You have a tight schedule.
I'll come back. Kann ich wieder noch einmal kommen?
Kann noch mal kommen? Ladies and gentlemen, I feel I'm back.
Good.
Vielen Dank. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John Kerry, thank you very much for being here. It was a pleasure having you here. We would love to welcome you back. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Facebook TV live here from the Berlin base camp here. And we did a town hall meeting on Facebook TV. John Kerry, the Secretary of State, was answering questions. Thank you very much. We love you to be back here.